true to what you said on paper.
I wish that I
slavery forever.
Good morning. Welcome back to At the Round Table with MAMLEO. I'm your host, Larry Ellison. In studio, my brothers from another. I don't even say no. My brothers.
How you doing?
Yeah. My brothers.
Well, you know, we're all from one mother, Mother Earth.
There you go.
There
you go. That's why they return us to her.
Yes.
Brother Rhodes is here this morning. Good morning, Brother Rhodes. How are you?
I'm all right. How are you?
Listen, man. I'm gonna steal my brother, Dr. Bradley's. I'm highly, what's it, Dr.
Highly favored and blessed.
Blessed and highly favored. See, I can't even steal it.
Blessed and highly favored.
That's it up. And the doctor is here with us this morning. Good morning, brother. Dr. Bradley, how are you, sir?
I'm blessed and highly favored. That's right, man. I'm here.
You got it right.
I'm on the right side of grass, man.
There we go.
Come on,
there we go.
God is good. God is good.
There we go. And over there smiling as usual, the man who keeps it going here, Pastor Hobbs is there in the house. Good morning, sir.
Good morning.
Always good to see you, brothers, man. This is why I say, why we tell people support this radio station. MAMLEO, we can, we're fortunate that our organization is in a situation where we can take care of. But this station provides information that is needed, and right now more so than ever.
It's information that you would not get on a normal basis if you don't have the station. At least you can look to this station every Saturday morning. You can get some information because we're the only game in town. The station, I think about it, and one of the things that the leadership here in Massachusetts have done.
It's a desert.
They have masterfully eradicated black talk from radio waves here in the city.
Yeah.
You don't get the real deal.
No.
We need to support this.
Exactly.
Definitely.
And speaking of support, we want to thank our sponsor, The Money Store, for all your mortgage needs. Get branch manager Cora Horbick or call it area code 508-345-4726. That's 508-345-4726. So, gentlemen, I want you to listen to this article. This was in the Boston Herald talking about how the level of literacy in the schools here in Massachusetts. Let's see if we can get it.
Adolescent literacy. About half of Massachusetts middle, high school students behind in English testing. Report highlights. About half of Massachusetts students tested in middle and high school are not meeting grade-level literacy expectations, a new Ed Trust report highlighted, advocating for renewed focus on adolescent literacy in the state. Literacy development does not end in third grade, and our policies should reflect that reality, said Jenny Williamson, State Director for Ed Trust in Massachusetts. Reading is the gateway to learning in every subject and nearly every opportunity that follows, but for too long, adolescent literacy has been treated as an afterthought. The Beyond the Early Grades, the State of Adolescent Literacy in Massachusetts, released by the education advocacy nonprofit Ed Trust, examined 2025 English Language Arts MCAS results for middle and high school students, finding nearly 150,000 of the students statewide fell behind grade-level benchmarks. Only about half of 10th graders met or exceeded expectation in the ELA testing, and fewer than half of middle schoolers met the benchmark, with large gaps between racial and ethnic groups, the report stated. Massachusetts students take the ELA MCAS exams in 6th, 7th, 8th and 10th grades. While stark racial and ethnic disparities demand immediate attention, the data also reveals a broader systemic shortfall. ELA proficiency is lagging for students across the board, the report states. In just 10th grade, the Ed Trust cites, 76% of Asian students and 59% of white students met or exceeded expectations, compared with just 35% of black students and 31% of Latino students, with similar and greater disparities in middle school. The gaps are greatest for multilingual learners, with between 65% and 75% of multilingual learners in grades 6 through 8 and 10 not yet meeting expectations, Ed Trust states. Disparities also persist for students with disabilities and low-income students, the report adds, who are about 3 times more likely to not meet expectations than affluent peers. The nonprofit highlights recent state investments in early literacy, including the Literacy Launch Initiative and the recently passed Right to Read law, but advocates for greater focus on learning for older students. Among the report's recommendations, Ed Trust points to the need for specified educator preparation and training, new high-quality instructional materials, evidence-based literacy interventions in middle and high school, and targeted support for multilingual learners and students with disabilities. When students cannot access grade-level texts, they are locked out of rigorous learning, college pathways, and economic opportunity, Williamson said. The good news is that this challenge is solvable. but only if we commit to supporting literacy development beyond the early grades. Adolescent literacy.
So, Dr. Bradley, I want you to weigh in on this first, and I'm going to get to Brother Jamal. I think everything in there is true, but I think the last part where he said this problem is solvable if there's a willingness, I think that's the part that always gets missed. We throw money at problems, but not real serious commitment to addressing the problem. When you hear those numbers and the number of people of color, Black, 35% compared to Asians and whites, north of 60% and 71% for Asian. And you think about it, in the school system here in Boston, that's a very small percentage of the students that attend school here in Boston. And instead of us dealing with that honestly, we increase the budget, but we don't increase the learning. And now we're closing schools next year. We're taking out teachers who look like these kids are the first ones that are being laid off. I've spoken with a lot of them. This problem that we have with the violence and stuff, in my opinion, I think it's only going to get worse. You're in academia. How do we turn the corner, or can we, with this?
I think the first step we have to take is that we have to understand that money doesn't solve problems. Mm-hmm. People do. Mm-hmm. All right. All money does is provide the resources in which people can use to solve the problem. That's the first step. The second step, that we have to change our mindset as it relates to the quality. What is quality education? America has been built on double standards all throughout its history. And it only educate certain people to an extent where the educator is comfortable, not the student getting the full understanding of the history of the country, a full understanding of the topic. So you, in our system, you need to have a record class. So if you educate people too much to be critical thinkers, they're not going to want. They will not want to be a member of that working class. They will want to be a member of the ruling class, and the ruling class only has so many memberships that it's going to allow. Mm-hmm. So, what you're talking about here is changing the entire mindset of society. So. And Donald Trump said this, and I don't agree on anything he says, but just one thing I said, he has a point here. I love uneducated people. Right. Remember he said that?
Yes,
and you know the reason why he says that?
He can manipulate them.
He can manipulate them. They are not critical thinkers. America's school system does not educate. The public school system does not educate for the purpose of critically thinking. It's for the purpose of actually doing mundane tasks,
repetition
tasks.
Yes,
repetition.
Right.
That's what the education.
That's what it is.
And to that industry, though, like going back in the day, you had places like General Motors, you had Polaroid, those places where you could employ someone. Those are no longer here. AI is even going to replace some of those people with the degrees. And it makes me think, and I'm going to grab Jamal in a second, Brother Rhodes, when you said many times growing up in Canada that the jock was not the person that people looked up to. It was the intelligent student that people were wanting to rally around, and we just have the total opposite.
We definitely have the total opposite. Here people rally around the bully, the person that can snap, like make other people feel bad or put other people down, and then but again, they don't, that's what, again, is put as the hierarchy, or like the person to be like. But again, like in other places, it's a smart person, the person that got the A in the in all his classes, and the person that had good attendance. You know what I mean? People, it's just crazy.
And I know, like, not everyone is, but you can do that because my mom didn't come from that era. She finished high school. Not some of us went to college, including myself, but that wasn't something that she thought she could achieve because, one, it was not affordable. And it didn't really prepare you for that. And you can break that cycle because I think sometimes people look at where you are in the moment and say, oh, well, you've had all these great opportunities. No, you have to make them. Like when we went on vacation, our daughters had their books. When we came back, they had exchanged them. We went to the library the next day to get more books. That's the parents that are leading that, right? So that's what they get used to, right? And I'm not trying to compare my children to others, but I'm saying
you set the standards exactly, and it's like bottom line is some people won't accept.
If we gave our kids a tablet, they'd be on it all day like other kids.
And that infuriates me because, again, like that's where the parents are giving up the job of actually raising the child, and they're giving up the technology, and they wonder why the kids don't respect them or look up to them, or even, they're like, oh, I don't need to ask you anything. I can go on the phone and get my answer.
Which is why I say that, our mindset, you know what I mean? I do it. I use the term EE ratio. And that's
education, entertainment. Yeah.
That is really deep. If you think about it, we are so
entertainment
ready to be entertained, but when you want to educate yourself, you're a nerd. Like my wife
you're a nerd.
My wife said to me the other day, she goes, you're very simple. I'd rather sit on my deck and read the Constitution. Right. Because I want to know what's going on. Because I realized through my education, there was a lot of education that I did not get. I got to go back and get that education. You see what I'm saying? If I can do it at my level, imagine what the person in the community is saying, what he has or she has missed. And so what it is that we have to stop relying, and Malcolm X said this.
He did.
We got to stop relying on people to educate our people.
Because he's like, the oppressors, you cannot trust the oppressor to be the one to educate you. But just to kind of reiterate what he said about the educational system, when they freed the slaves, they asked the industrialists at the time what they wanted, and they said specifically they did not want critical thinkers. They wanted factory workers, people that just listen and do the job over and over again, do what they're told, and just so again, that's what and our educational system is still based upon those ideas.
And the factories are going
and to that point, though, you think about it. When I'm going back, everybody got excited remember when BET, Black Entertainment Television. I'm like, wait a minute, Black Entertainment Television, right? I'm like, we need something to inform us. So they had a little carve out for news, but tiny. Then when it was bought out, that's the first thing they got rid of was the news. So it was about videos, booty shaking, and all that, but nothing to inform us. And we're still like this station here, right? We could get up here, come a Saturday morning, and play music and all that, right? But how is that going to help your critical thinking, Jamal? Okay, well, Pastor Hobbs, yes.
Just a comment on our sister Ivina from Australia says, greetings, my friends. She's tuning in. She says, she wanted me to ask you guys about her view of racism. She says it's actually jealousy. She says the hatred, quote unquote, is deeply suppressed jealousy.
Yeah, that's part of it.
No, because I remember watching a thing on Facebook, and this lady, they asked her about racism, and she says, anything that can bring Black people joy, we will go after. If it's a family unity, if them being entertained, whatever it is, we will go and try to get
and to that point, let's look at that for a second, right? Because when people think that, okay, they want to try to peg Black people as being lazy and not entrepreneurs. When we were forming our own, like Tulsa and other places, right?
Our own little cities where we were self-sufficient, they came in and destroyed it.
Right.
So it's definitely an inherent jealousy.
Right. Yeah. Exactly. So Jamal, let's go down your laundry list, brother. Jamal, you there?
Number one.
Okay.
Yeah. Number one. The officer who just got found, another domestic situation, and now, he's going to go not before post. They've already snapped it back.
Yeah, which is normal. Yeah.
Yeah, and this was a guy who was another guy who was known. He was actually a community service officer.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
Out of the E5. So what is that, kind of West Roxbury?
West Roxbury, yeah.
Like JP type of. Okay. So by all accounts, known as a real friendly guy, but has these problems at home.
Well, they also said he was involved in a shooting on duty where someone was
in 2001.
Right, where someone was killed.
Where he shot a drug suspect.
Mm-hmm.
At the time, the newspaper said it was something out of an action movie because they say he was on the hood and the top of the vehicle, and how he actually shot that person, he shot him through the sunroof.
Yeah.
That's a cowboy.
Well, that's what you're seeing now with these ICE agents, right? And running around Maine and other places, right? ill-trained shooting in cars. It's one of the things. First thing you're taught, you don't shoot at moving vehicles for a litany. One is that
if you hit the driver and where his car gonna go,
yeah, right.
So, but the ICE agent that his ex-wife came out and said that first of all she thought they were going to do a background check. She's like, ICE does not do a background check because her husband has had many violations, like he's thrown boiling water at her. Yes, go ahead.
Pretty much all you have to do is be breathing.
Right, he was a
known domestic violence person. Yes, and he should never have gotten the job, any kind of job where he has authority, over people. So, and so that just tells you again, as far as Trump's private army being.
That's what it is. He's setting us up for the elections.
So they can
listen to him, and then he says, "Hey,
listen to me, and
I'll give you a pardon because you're only even charged under federal laws in most of these instances." So,
and this brings me to the next thing, which Larry, we talked a little offline about. But as we've seen now in most recent news reports, more loopholes imposed in terms of if somebody knows, the guillotine is coming, they can resign or retire before, said discipline comes down the road.
Yep.
And then that does not take away their license.
No, it does. Let me because this is what we've had those cases come before us, and then what I can say during my time, I can't speak of current, is that we would still hear those cases, and then we would then determine whether or not to decertify so that they can't go get a job someplace else or in another state that is tied into the system. So that does happen. Okay.
You have to see the news report.
Okay.
By I think it was WCVB, and the news guy there. I almost want to say Mike Bodette, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, Mike Bodette. There you go. Who also too is a professor at Northeastern, teaching investigative journalism and this type of thing. So it was their class that actually discovered these loopholes, where it actually was people who were able to basically, dodge the posting or what have you, the decertification, and then they ended up at mainly universities and private facilities. And then
let me just jump into what you're saying, because and again, it depends on when you talk about private universities and other things. A lot of them are not post certified because they don't have police power. Right. So you can't, the post has no authority of keeping them from.
Yeah, exactly.
No, not that they would on that tip, but I'm saying that person probably would not have been hired had this thing already gone through. And what it seems
because not everyone would check the database. A lot of these colleges and stuff, they're just looking for a warm body.
No, but what I'm saying is that some of these people have been able to avoid the red flag,
right? By resigning,
they resigned or retired
right
beforehand, and then these colleges, universities, and so on and so forth are unbeknownst to that. And then the other thing is also too some of these small towns,
right?
So
I'm sorry. Go on, Jamal.
Well, I was just going to say, so an officer from a big town like Boston or Springfield or whatever the big towns are, you can end up in like a Acushnet or whatever, and be good.
Well, one of the things, my response to that would be, first of all, he's correct. That is a loophole that is very difficult to address, especially when you're dealing with private sectors. But what I have found in my profession is that it's very easy for white police officers to find jobs elsewhere.
Oh, yeah.
It's not very easy for people of color to find those same jobs. And oftentimes they don't even know about
Even if you don't have any charges.
If you don't have any charges, you don't even know about it. You know what I mean? So, in a situation that he's putting out there, Jamal putting out, he's right. But, if that individual has connections, Yeah, he's going to get a job.
No, he is.
He's going to get a job very quickly.
Well,
He's got the right complexion for the protection.
Again, and I'm going to grab this other call. Like I said, I'm not here defending Post. I think people, it's still a fairly new organization. It's less than, I think, 6 or 7 years old. And it started from infancy, and it's during Post when people couldn't get together in person, and the legislators, during the George Floyd, they kind of rushes through, and there were a lot of things in there that needed to be tweaked. Because
well, hold on, Larry.
Yeah.
Can I get my black activist moment?
Go ahead.
Literally, I'm the guy who created all of this. It became Post, but in the beginning, it was introduced as simply police decertification.
Yeah.
Which me, as a frustrated black activist who was looking for ways to deal with, police reform on another level, and then I found this concept, and I was like, oh my goodness, that is golden.
Right.
And I befriended the godfather of it, the man who created it, whose name is Professor Roger Goldman. He's now dead. Rest in peace. Him. I've been in contact with his son and whatnot, but he is the guy who, basically developed the concept that, like lawyers, like real estate agents, like doctors, you have a license and it can be revoked.
Yeah.
That's the main premise.
Most states have that system. Massachusetts.
At the time when I did it, it was only 6 states that did not have it.
Yeah.
At the time that I did it, it was only 6 states that did not have it.
Right.
That's one of the reasons I was able to win here.
Right.
Now, there's only 4 states that do not have it: New York, New Jersey, Rhode Island, and Hawaii. And I'm in contact with state legislatures there trying to also introduce that there.
Rhode Island has Post.
Okay. So
Rhode Island has Post.
Okay. 1 second, Helen. I'm gonna bring you in. So the other thing, Jamal, is I know you and others, and I know Eddie was part of that as well as former, Commissioner Dennis White and amongst others, to have something like designed not for certification purposes but oversight in Boston in the OPAT, right? Office of Police Accountability and Transparency. And that has kind of been like a fizzle and a dud. And I'm not blaming his current executive, because I met with him and it really, it showed me what he's up against. Is that I think there's more symbolism in the city, what they want to represent, than any type of substance and accountability, because that office should be working overtime based on some of the problems that are still existing in the police department. And they're only charged with Boston police officers, and that a lot of what you're saying should be addressed, because like you see a lot of officers, to your point, Jamal and Dr. Bradley, you see them, they'll retire and it'll say retire with charges pending, right? And that's like the scarlet letter, so
and we know, and Willie knows as well as I do, it's like in a bunch of other people that have gone through the police department, anyone who speaks out against the department or whatever it may be, it's like that's their way of papering people's files and so forth. And there are different ways of them of going after people.
Right. Well, I mean, we're seeing that now,
especially when it comes to different things. Like even look at the way Hawaii is. It's like they have Post.
Right. But
it's like there's plenty of states have Post, and Post includes certification. There isn't a separate certification process. Not like the way Massachusetts does it. Yeah. It's like when it comes to, there's certain things like Hawaii has it, Rhode Island has it. All that stuff's already been embedded. Massachusetts has just been way behind the 8 ball.
Massachusetts is the least transparent state there is, according to some published reports. Right. Like compared to other states, we are the least. We claim to be liberal, but we're
this what I'm saying is that they rushed this out, and there were some defects in it that we need to go in there and fix. One of them that was glaring to me is when they wrote it, their language said chiefs of police. Right. And then I'm looking at this and I'm like, they said, wait a minute, the police commissioner in Boston is a civilian and not a police officer. So technically they have immunity of accountability because the statute doesn't say, the department heads. And so they modified that language so that Boston wouldn't have an escape clause of not being accountable. Good, Jamal.
And that's something where they were doing stuff like that. Like Jamal, like I'd have to ask you, like, where are you getting that information? Where states like Hawaii or Rhode Island, like I'm in Hawaii right now, it's like, where are you saying that those states don't have a decertification process when they have?
Where I got that information? Okay, great. So, so
when
from the beginning,
I was a chief in Rhode Island. We had to go through there was a whole post and soul certification.
Okay, let him answer. Let him answer. Good.
So from the beginning of this, post was not my idea. Post is actually the weak, watered down version of what the concept that, I was actually pushing, which is police decertification. Quite simple.
Mm-hmm.
So mainly a bunch of states, like right here in Massachusetts, we already had, you remember Dan Zivkovich?
Yes.
Okay. So he was the head of the Massachusetts Police Training and Training
MPTC.
Council?
Yep, MPTC.
Yeah. Okay. Right. So that would have been basically post because peace officer standards and training. There was already a thing dealing with standards and trainings that was overall the academies, and that wasn't the issue. The issue was that people were able to be licensed to be police officers, but there was no mechanism by which they could be delicensed or decertified based on actions that were, incongruent with, the oath and the duties that they took. So in many of these other states, I don't know what your research is, but once again, my relationship with Professor Roger Goldman.
When you were saying that they don't have a certification and decertification process and don't have post, it's like they do have post. And part of it, if you're talking about decertification, well, in order for someone to be decertified, they'd have to be certified in the first place. And by which they're certified is by post. So I'm curious as to who told you that.
No. They
were
not
certified.
certified.
Don't have
Yeah.
post.
Okay. Yeah. So I think
people were certified long before post existed.
Mm-hmm.
For the Massachusetts example, if people want more information on this,
and that's the thing. We want to make sure people get the right information on there because it's
right. All right. So
the names of who told you.
Okay. So we want to talk over each other so we can.
Who told me? I've said several times.
Yeah.
Professor Roger Goldman, rest in peace, is the guy that I brought to Massachusetts, which is how we brought it through the legislative hearing session, where we did an entire information session for the legislature. This is how it got, introduced and then voted on and then became what we now know as post.
So Jamal, where do you think we need the post here as it in its current form needs to be tweaked in what areas? And this is where, our legislators need to be informed on what changes the community wants, because as far as they think, they've done their job. Because when we got it and I looked at it, I'm like, there was no direction, there was no foundation. It was just, here we came up with some things and now you guys put the concept in place, and the vast majority of us, that's not what we did in life.
Like anything proposed at the State House, right? You go in with an entire cake, right? And then by the time everybody gets their little thing at it, it's a little section.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Well, because it gets whittled down from the strength of what it was intended to be.
Right.
So all I'm gonna say is that in the process of, once again, what I introduced was police decertification. It became up under this post because I think even the concept of the term, the verbiage, decertification, police delicensing, was not in the political flavor at the time. So they went with the softer version, and then they also softened up some of the things that were supposed to be in there. Right now, what the main loopholes, one of which you already identified, is that an officer who is, the MAMLEO vote or what have you, could be for an officer who is, already retired or what have you. But the bigger loopholes are those that allow a person who knows that they got a big thing coming.
Yep.
So they resign or they retire, and that's great. That might stop them from legal indemnity or what have you. But once again, I think that should forfeit your license. Almost like if I get pulled over for a DUI and you refuse the breathalyzer,
you get a
that's
suspension.
an automatic. That's an automatic thing. So if you're trying to avoid what could be the punishment for your actions with a case pending, I think that should also
right. So let me.
You should also lose
right.
your police.
Right.
license.
So let me jump in there because there's two things. One, because I've always argued that like the gaming commissioners are full time, the gaming commissioners, and we have less casinos than we do law enforcement personnel.
Mm-hmm.
The post commissioners, the commissioners, not the staff, are part time. They're not full time, and they should be because this is a full time problem. So all of the commissioners are not doing this every day, and the commission is because it's over 20,000 officers.
Are they getting compensated for it?
It's $68 an hour and that depends on if you're on the clock. Like for me, it was nothing because I was always working Monday through Friday when we met.
Yeah.
So it didn't benefit me. And now if I'm a detail rate for a police officer is $85 an hour. Mm-hmm. So if I was working, do I go to a post meeting or do I go do a detail? Right. Because a post meeting is probably maybe an hour or two. And I can get 8 hours of that. So that needs to be adjusted. But I think also, go ahead, Down.
Yeah. And the thing that we forget too, though, and Larry, Willie, you guys know as well as I do, it's those like Cox or Owens or even Crispin or Eddings that have protected those cops that have been dirty and corrupt and what else, that they don't get anywhere near having any sort of quote unquote charges or whatever else against them.
Right, but I'm gonna push back a little bit on that statement.
How do they even get to the point of even coming under any sort of review?
Well, I'm going to push back because I like I said, without any proof of what you're saying about Crispin and Eddings, I gotta say I don't know of anything that rises to that level that I've seen on their behavior that they're contributing to this. Because a lot of times we know that, for instance, when the matter with Eddie Crispin, right, his findings were in contrast to what the commissioner changed, and that's why the Captain Goggin is suing, because that's not the finding that they came. There were other instances where they disagree, but the way that it's structured, the commissioner has the final say on matters, but then you get blamed for the changes that the commissioner made. You know that, Dr. Bradley, you recommended as a commander of someone being disciplined, and that's not what they decide to do with this person ultimately is entitled to commission. I think that's wrong. The other thing, and which Jamal pivot a little bit, is that Jamal, that has been a problem at OPAT, right? Where because the commissioner has a final say there again on matters, and officers have taken that as direction that I don't have to cooperate with them as long as I deal with internal affairs. And I think that's one of the things that you have taken issue with, that officers feel like they don't have to cooperate with those investigations, and they haven't really been cooperative with OPAT when it comes to
not even cooperate. Office, they haven't viewed. There have plenty been times when citizens have made complaints via OPAT and no charges are even brought. Where we've heard of cases where people complain in the community where they'll bring complaints via OPAT, and either Commissioner Cox or whomever, they don't even do anything with those.
No.
Once again, things that I've brought forth or advocated for, introduced, all that type of thing. It's never what you initially thought. So, the entire Boston Police Reform Task Force, all of us, I could speak, very, candidly for all of the members, none of this ended up working out the way that it was in our minds, right? Mm-hmm. We created a beautiful universe, and then reality smacks, right? And the same thing with the Post. When I introduced police decertification and it came through, I'm like, okay, cool, I'm done here, right? But no, I did not even myself, is smart and wonderful and handsome, I might add.
You talking about me?
Right. I did not anticipate some of the other stuff that now, once again, you creating a ship, you out to sail on the ocean, and now you're like, oh, there's a little leak over here.
Right, but this is where I said about, like I totally agree in some of those aspects, because when I left, I felt like there was unfinished business, that because I came in early, that Eddie was going to be trying to catch up, get caught up to speed on what we'd already been doing, right? And that there'd been no continuity that needed to take place for a longer period of time, because according to the statute, I needed to step down and someone else needed to come in because I was retiring. And I stayed longer than I was going to because I knew that was in there, in order to be around to help build that foundation of the Post, because we fought very hard to have something like that in place. But again, I go back also to the OPAT, right, where you guys have flagged the deficiencies in there, and it's been ignored. I know you've been a very strong, and me as well. I was, and like I said, I sat down with Evandro Cavallo about what was going on there, and to his credit, I got a better understanding of what he was up against, because I didn't really have a lot of insight on OPAT, because I knew if the city was involved and the commissioner had veto power, I felt like that was never going to work. The one thing the reason why I did sign on to even be part of the Post Commission is because it had separation. We didn't report, they still don't report to the governor, the attorney general, any of those folks about what they do. So there's not that political pressure that you normally have when you're appointed by someone and they can remove you without cause. And I think that's, to me, until that body is independent of the mayor, it's just a rubber stamp of Commissioner Cox, because they've had several findings that were in opposition of the commissioner, but his word was the one that stood, and folks weren't held accountable. So you people lose faith in the system. Like I said, Post is not perfect. I'm not here to defend it, but I did appreciate having that independence of that, worrying about what was going to happen to me if I held someone accountable for their behavior, even though they were popular, they had connections.
But that's exactly where it comes in, right? Like, in terms of the whole faith in the system, it's like you talk about how OPAT's not working, how Post is not working, and so forth. But even with some sort of, whether it become decertification or whatever it may be, it's like cops have been calling that for ages. It's like in all fairness, it's like, Jamal, it wasn't something that just because introducing it back when you did it, cops have been calling it for a long, long time. It's like, heck, I called for it even shortly before getting on the job on Boston Police, and Rhode Island had it long before even I was chief. Like, knowing like how the system works and how much it can be twisted. It's like Willie and I both resigned with bogus charges pending. Mine for retaliation of reporting dirty cops, and then even having a situation where Owens and Cox were covered up for both dishonestly. And then even still, like, there are cases I know of where Eddings and Crispin still providing cover for different cops. And it's like, and you look at it where you don't think that with the recent shootings with gangbangers and so forth, the cops you don't see that some of them know, like, not condoning it, but see that some of these people were even way up at the top when they're being friends with or associating with some of the worst of the worst on their socials. You don't think that regular gangbangers on the streets would know about that? Mm-hmm. Where they know that, like, hey, if the ones at the top and the ones in leadership don't have honesty or integrity among them, and even those that have worked in internal affairs in IA don't have integrity among them.
Right. Well, that's not always
like how's that going to reflect upon the system itself? And that's just from people looking from outside in.
Right. Well, that's why you need an independent.
How they look at how the system doesn't.
Right. You need an independent lens. Pastor Hobbs has some comments he wants to.
Actually, no. This is it's another piece of legislation. It's the COAST, right? So we've got
the COAST,
right? Okay. Which is correctional officers oversight, because that's another whole political body. This is another, because of officers who the force and the secrecy behind the wall, right? In terms of the Shakopi Kenny, right? That's particular incidents that some footage got out. So this is legislation because correctional officers are protected by the union and they report exclusively to the sheriff. So it's another police body that doesn't have accountability.
Well, I think some do, because some of them are, like in some of the other jurisdictions, do have police powers. They do details, they work out there, and they have to be post certified. I think, if I'm not mistaken, Suffolk County sheriffs, because they don't work outside of the building, are not post certified because they're not.
Well, actually, some of them do, because I had a number of Suffolk County sheriffs that were actually in my academy class.
Right, but I'm saying I don't think they're post certified. That's what I'm saying. Because I know Steve Tompkins, some of them at one point wanted to be able to do details and whatnot. He didn't want them on the road, so they.
Yeah, I'm sorry. Yeah, no, sorry, not Suffolk, but yeah, middle.
No, right, right. No, that's what I'm saying. Right, yeah, exactly. Because I know some of our retirees do details, and they still have to go through the post training and certification. But I think Suffolk County, that was the little loophole for them, because if you're not enforcing laws out there in a way, then you in acting in a police capacity, you don't have to be post certified.
Well, what I'm speaking to is the various iterations of oversight of police officers, right? Whether it's OPAT, whether it's post, and this is now COAST, right?
Okay.
And this is specifically legislation that's Senate Bill 1546, which would.
So this is something that's pending.
This is pending.
Okay.
Which would establish a Massachusetts Correctional Officer Accountability Standards and Training, or COAST Commission, right? And it says that the COAST legislation aims to create a civilian oversight, to your point, right? And regulatory body responsible for setting standards, statewide standards, for correctional officers training, certification, conduct, accountability in Massachusetts. Its core goal is to strengthen public trust, prevent misconduct, and ensure correctional officers operate with a professionalism, safety, and transparency. Right, so it creates.
So let me ask you a question, your opinion, and you know, and feel free to spin. I know you will. Do you think that is necessary, or do we just roll them into what's already? Because we start another commission, and again, a lot of them can just opt out, like Suffolk County has done, opted out of certain criteria so that they don't have to abide by the commission. So why not just roll them in what we already have, because they're acting in a law enforcement capacity?
I think because aren't you saying that the way that they already have is limitations, right? We're talking about these challenges, right? With these various, I see Dr. Bradley shaking his head. So I'm curious to hear, without us even explaining what we're saying and where he's going. But
I'm saying, I'm worrying about the average citizen. You have POST, you have COAST, you have OPEC, you have all these acronyms.
Right.
Yeah.
What in the world does all that mean to the average citizen? You know, that's one piece. And my other head is, whatever happened to simple old civilian review? You know, in order for us to have any movement on community police relations of any level, we have to have standards by which all of our law enforcement officers are here must adhere to. And all these stand up, hold up. Let me speak on this. I'm very sincere about this. Yeah. You know, we have a problem in professional law enforcement because our community do not believe in us. We have this group of individuals who saying that they're enforcing the law, but yet they want to turn their back on one of their members. They want to turn their back on the community when one of the members break the law. We need to have a situation where we are coming out forward as a unified entity to say, this officer was wrong, all right? And this officer will be disciplined. So throwing all these acronyms, all you're doing is confusing the community, and you're driving a deeper wedge between the community and the law enforcement agency.
Well, and that's why I was saying is that, you know, a lot of times, you know, MAMLEO has used that, to your point, Dr. Bradley, when we're saying, and it doesn't get out there, the unions are saying, well, wait a minute, well, why is Officer O'Reilly didn't get treated? We're looking and putting side by side the same matter, but yet the Officer Bradley is getting fired or disciplined harshly, and then well, we don't want to talk about that. No, you can't have two systems for the same problem.
Exactly.
for the same problem.
So, Helen, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to be forceful on that, but I think that we really derail our
credibility as well.
Credibility, but we also make it difficult for the honest officers who are trying to do the job, because we are actually covering officers who are doing the wrong thing, and making our life, making the community against the police department, because we are turning our back on that on good officers when bad officers are allowed to roam around and do what they're doing.
It's crazy. Exactly. And then we've had a Boston Civilian Review Board since late 2020, and even with them, it's like even when I reported to the Civilian Review Board, their response back to me was basically, "Oh, can't." As a cop, I can't actually report to the Civilian Review Board. So it's like, even when you try to make reports to entities that are supposed to be holding police accountable, they don't even they don't even take reports there. Like, you have to report that makes no sense.
So Jamal I was going to say,
I don't know what regulations, would come if you're an active duty police officer with that. I know I had long suggested a separate mechanism for reporting wrong behavior with that, but the Civilian Review Board came about at the same time as the OPAT, because it all came as a result of the Boston Police Reform Task Force, and what we thought that we had kind of struck was the three-prong approach, which was, one, an entity, Office of Police Accountability and Transparency, that was kind of the overarching office, right? And then underneath that, even though they all worked in trifecta, and underneath that was also, if you remember, Menino created the co-op, Community Ombudsman Oversight Panel. Yeah. So we kind of reformed that, gave that more power in turn, and called that the EOP or IOP, whatever you want to call it, Internal Affairs Oversight Panel, as well as then the Civilian Review Board, the CRB, so that all those things were supposed to work in tandem,
right,
to kind of tackle this problem. Now the overarching problem is, and that's what we're seeing here, is oftentimes, once again, when these things are prescribed to deal with a certain issue, it's inadequate.
Well, I think also
in its first iteration.
Well, the big part of that, it's design bid, but I think where the inadequacy is, it's independence, right? Because Helen, Dr. Bradley, and I, we all knew under the police, and then most of the civilians, right? Once you've gone there once, and it's not an indictment on the people that work there so much as we knew that they didn't have the final say. They could go out and do the investigation. But if you went to internal affairs, people just said, I as a police officer, I'm like, why would I go and complain there when I know this person is connected and nothing's going to happen to them?
Exactly.
Larry, why in the world would a civilian person go to the police department when they look at and when they see that nothing's done? Hold up, watch this now. Why would I even talk to you as a detective who's trying to solve a murder? All right, when I know that the police department, and when I feel that the police department doesn't care about me, that is the problem.
Absolutely.
That's why we're not solving murders in this.
Let me give you a quick example of a situation that I personally had. Right, I remember one day I went into B3. This is going back. I was doing a detail. I went in there to drop off my card. The sergeant had started the roll call, so everyone's lined up. I'm standing there behind because I don't want to be disrespectful and cut through the line. You know that when you're doing that. And he starts berating me, yelling, "Get that, out of my, I'm like, and I'm looking around, I look behind me. I'm like, he must be talking to somebody behind me. Now, as much as I wanted to give it back to him, I said, you know what? I'm going to use their system because I've got 12 witnesses hearing him talk to me like that. I filed a 1920, which is an official police complaint against this sergeant. I go up to internal affairs when they call for my hearing. I'm in there. And the first thing out of the two supervisors' mouths was, well, you think maybe he was having a bad day?
There you go.
Right? I said, excuse me?
Always.
A bad day. I said, we're not entitled to have
bad days. No.
His behavior was disrespectful.
You carry your firearm,
right?
Yes.
So you can't control your temperament.
But I said to them, okay, if that's the conclusion that you seem to be coming up with, give me my bad day card right now.
Yeah, exactly.
Because the next time someone speaks to me like that, I'm gonna
exactly,
and I'm gonna say, here's my bad day card.
Yep.
Because you said that was behavior. All I got to do is say I was having a bad day. Oh, that's not what we're saying. That is what you're saying.
And Larry, do you know if your complaint ever actually went anywhere?
No, it was it was not sustained. It was not sustained. With all the witnesses that came up there, the officers testified that I did nothing. They heard him say this. It was not sustained. I knew that. But like I said, I went along with the kangaroo court because I'm like, here is a situation where I didn't even open my mouth.
But see, Larry, the danger here is that our good police officers who are trying to do the right thing, who are actually doing legitimate, fair, and equitable investigations, are going to get repudiated by the community, rejected by the community, because we are covering those officers who are doing the wrong thing. Yes. We're not giving people an outlet to complain and actually see some kind of type of response to their complaint. We need to have a vital, real, a subpoena-powered community review board. Period.
Well, Dr. Bradley, one of our texters is saying, "Amen, Dr. Bradley."
And I asked Wu on the MAMLEO show years ago about cops, Giglio and Brady impaired, like Michael Proctor, and she dodged it. Even when it comes to a cop or probably killing another cop, it's like, how silent has she been?
Yeah,
when you have those like Cox and Owens at the top, and how then since Karen Reed was cleared. I mean, we saw how, Commissioner Cox there, bold-faced lied, in front of anyone and everyone.
Well, I just think, like, again, people, if they want to see what's going on in any kind of police department or any kind of investigation, again, just so you have the case in point of Karen Reed's case.
Yeah.
Okay,
you're finding out. Right?
You're just finding out left and right, like.
But because Karen Reed doesn't look like you and I,
that's the only reason.
More serious while they're digging in to find out that this behavior is not appropriate.
But if any one of us did the same thing that Commissioner Cox did, right, as a police officer, lied like that in front of everyone, in public, whatever it may be, it would have made any of us ineligible.
Well, they have a policy for untruthfulness, and the only outcome for that supposedly is termination.
I got one question.
But apparently doesn't apply to him.
I have one question, and then I will shut up on this because I'm too emotional.
We've got 2 minutes.
This is my one question: is it or is it not that our military, the most powerful military in the world, report to civilians?
Yes.
So why can't our police department do the same?
Well, they do. The commissioner is a civilian, I'm saying, I mean, outside of that,
the commissioner is a civilian who has been conditioned by the character and the internals of the police department. I'm talking about separate and outside from policing.
I don't have a problem with that because we do that with people who we arrest. We don't get to decide whether or not their behavior was, I'm the one that stopped them or arrested them, but I don't get to. They don't have a court in front of me. We go to an independent body to decide whether or not what both of us said is true. Thank you, Helen.
But we know.
We got 30 seconds, quick, very quick.
But we know all this tells us is that Mayor Wu wants dirty cops.
All right, thank you.
He's going to have someone like Commissioner Cox still there.
Okay.
That's what she wants.
All right, Jamal, you get the final word, brother. I know it's been long.
No, I'm going to defer the final word to Helen. I think she got more to say.
Okay.
I was going to say, like, hey, she should be wanting honesty and integrity. But but that's not what she wants.
No, that's what people say. I can tell people. I judge people by their actions, not by what they. Jamal, Helen, thank you. Appreciate it, Helen. Continue to enjoy your vacation. If you're in Hawaii, you're up awfully early. I know there's a 6-hour time difference. I don't know. You might be ahead because we.
It's my time clock is completely
Oh yeah, it takes you about 2 weeks to get adjusted to that. Yeah, you're used to being up. All right, Rhodes, anything going on in the community that folks need to know about?
Well, just remember, folks, make sure you guys get registered to vote and encourage people to early vote and tell all the people.
Because voting in Boston is going to be before Labor Day this year, right? I believe September 1st.
Yes. Oh, is it? Okay, okay. So, be aware of that the deadlines have changed. They've moved.
If you're not going to be here, vote early.
Vote by mail, okay?
Because you're not going to do it when you come back.
Yes. Yeah, so that's and then as Dr. Bradley likes to say,
be blessed.
All right.
Amen.
This is for the dreamers. They say I am a dreamer, 'cause I still believe that anything is possible as long as you work hard. Hustle real hard, hustle real hard, hustle real hard, hustle so if I never see ya, never get the chance to meet ya, no, I came up from the bottom, always rooting for the underdog.
I wrote 300 songs in 1 year, Boogie will tell you I'm on it. I got unreleased songs for days, they don't want it. Eat any MC in the game, it ain't a challenge. If your music reflects who you are, then you's a coward. I can see through the lies, you ain't living what you spitting. If your money's so long, why your dog's in prison? Why your baby mom's stripping, why your mom's still living in that same broken home that you used to sell piffin'? You ain't gotta lie to me to sell me a track. You ain't gotta rock fake jewels or walk around strap. I respect artists getting money, but love them for spitting crack. And the fact that one track can move a family out the trap. It's a dream for us lost souls brought up in the mix. I'm motivated by the artists coming out in my midst. And the artists that paved the way when I didn't exist. Music's a skyscraper, I'm just trying to add a couple bricks.
This is for the dreamers. They say I am a dreamer, 'cause I still believe that anything is possible as long as you work hard. Hustle real hard, hustle real hard, hustle real hard, hustle so if I never see ya, never get the chance to meet ya, no, I came up from the bottom, always rooting for the underdog.
I always dreamed I'd be